The 368th rumor, or actually in this case report, about the Switch Pro dropped last night and this morning, coming out of both Bloomberg and Eurogamer. The reason why this one's getting people a little more excited though, and why I'm actually sitting here making a video about it, is because this is probably the first report we've seen in a long time that actually has news relevant to things happening in the near future. This is not a report simply saying that Nintendo is working on it, or it is coming out someday, or is entering full production sometime. Instead, it has a couple very important pieces of info, some of which are very, very soon. Now, I'm not going to go too in depth on everything they talked about because I feel like, especially how late in the day I am talking about this, some of you guys have already seen some reports. So the very quick summary version before I get into some additional thoughts on this is this. According to Bloomberg, as well as Eurogamer, the Nintendo Switch next model, whatever you want to call it, the Switch Pro, the new Nintendo Switch, the Switch XL, is going to be going into full production this July with a release date targeted for this upcoming fall, specifically September or October. The part of this information that is very quickly upcoming though is the idea that Nintendo is going to have to reveal this system sometime in the next 2 weeks. The reason being is that they need to reveal the system before E3, which is happening on June 12th. And this is the part that I really want to focus on and talk about a little bit, because I think that people can read that particular line and concept and walk away thinking a couple different things. First off, as always, take all of this with a grain of salt. I do generally trust reports from Bloomberg and Eurogamer much more than just random rumor sites that pop up every now and then, but even then, plans change, information can be wrong sometimes, or maybe their information is correct, but plans end up changing on the backside on Nintendo's end that makes it not true anymore. There's even always the popular theory that sometimes companies delay things intentionally when news reports come out like this just to spite them and keep people on their toes. Now, with that being said, the thing I really want to focus on though is the idea of why a new Switch model would need to get revealed before E3. Now, of course, the simple short line that's being said here is that, oh, because developers are going to be releasing games that will work with this new system, and so of course the system has to be public knowledge before they can talk about that. But there's also this question of, well, what exactly is different about this new system? If the only actual difference with the new model Switch is the display, you wouldn't really have to reveal that before E3. It's not like a new display on the system is going to change how a 1080p trailer looks, because ultimately everyone's just watching it on a stream on their computer or whatever device from home. So if this system has to get revealed before E3, that implies there is something different about the kind of gameplay visuals the system can push out, aside from how the display shows it. I think some people are going to walk away from reading that line thinking that this means that the next Switch model is some kind of heavy upgrade revision, and there's going to be exclusive games that only work on it and not on the regular Switch, kind of like how the new 3DS had a handful of games that were exclusive to it. And I don't think that's necessarily what's going on here. I don't think that's an impossibility. There have been some rumors in the past already about there being some new Switch model exclusives, primarily coming from third parties, but again, those have just been rumors. What I think is more likely, and maybe keeps hype a little more in check, but it's still a cool thing, is 4K DLSS. When you look back at a lot of the reports and rumors about the new Switch model, there's really two main features that crop up a lot that I think are the more than likely things that will be happening with this system. Emphasis on likely, not actually happening for sure. And that is that it will have a new display that will be larger, filling up more of the body of the Switch tablet, as well as being OLED, so it'll have a much better picture quality, lots of great vibrant colors, so on and so forth, and that this new model would support 4K DLSS in docked mode. Now, we've talked about this a couple times, but the shorthand version of this is that 4K DLSS is basically a method of outputting a 4K resolution signal that isn't actually technically truly 4K. It is a 4K image that's coming out, but it's taking a lower resolution that's being internally rendered by the system and then doing a lot of fancy processing techniques to get it to be 4K and look a lot better. Not necessarily as good as native 4K, but much better than just leaving it at 1080p. And so if this is actually a part of a new Switch model, that to me would make a lot of sense for why it needs to be revealed before E3 happens. Because while this next system model isn't necessarily going to have exclusive new games that a regular Switch can't run, something that a lot of companies love to do is latch on to buzzwords, and 4K is a big one. Not saying 4K isn't an important and good feature, but it's something that companies love to latch onto to say why this next game is so much cooler and better than an older one would be. So if we're going to see new Switch games that can support a 4K resolution via DLSS, a lot of companies are going to want to have 4K trailers and gameplay demos that constantly emphasize, hey, here's our new game coming out for the Switch, and yes, it is going to support a 4K docked output with the new Switch model, whatever that ends up being called. That's at least my 2 cents on it. Yes, there is the possibility that there are maybe a handful of exclusives for this new system. There's the possibility that this new system is something much different than what we were already thinking about. There's even the possibility that none of this is actually happening, although with how many things have been going on lately, I'm pretty sure that's not the case. Either way, I'm very interested in seeing if in the next 2 weeks we do get some kind of news drop that reveals what the system is. Honestly, more than anything at this point, I really want that to happen, just so this rumor cycle can finally come to an end. We have been talking about Switch Pro stuff for so long. Some of that was maybe getting into the rumors a little too early, but as more and more reports have come out, we've just been in this constant cycle of, oh, this is what's happening, or this is what it's going to have, or this is when it's coming out. And if this latest report is true, hopefully that cycle is actually going to come to an end, at least for a little bit. Look, we all know how this works. Assuming the system does actually come out this year, as soon as it's released, we're probably already going to see people talking about rumors and speculation on what Nintendo's next model is going to be, or Nintendo's next not Switch model is going to be. I mean, you're already seeing that happen with the PS5. We have rumors of the PS5 Pro that started before the PS5 even launched. I don't think it's going to be any different for Nintendo, but I'm excited that at least this particular one might actually have a resolution soon.